the fraternities has to be funded, and members fund them. You are asked to pay certain dues, and at times you can't afford it, so you must pay. So you have to do everything possible to pay. So most of them have gone into armed robbery, and the spread of violence in the country, I would say, could be linked because the fraternities have as well left the campuses. They've penetrated into the streets and create nooks and crannies of the country. So the violence is no longer restricted within the boundaries of the universities or the higher institutions. We have them virtually everywhere, and it's really getting deep and deep. I bet you a lot of them can't even tell you this was the original aim of our founding members. There was a fraternity formed to fight apartheid, well, in support of apartheid, the black emancipation of the blacks. But I wonder how they are emancipating blacks when they are killing fellow blacks. So you'll see how much they've derailed.
You're listening to Creative World, and I've been discussing with the author of I have the author of Last Oda, Obinna Anejionu, in the studio. And what do you think can be the solution to an end to all these problems?
Well, I think the founding fathers, they've not done much. They've officially denounced the boys in the university. They said, we've cut ties with them. You're no longer dealing with us. You are no longer part of us. They've done that years ago. But then, each time fraternity is mentioned, fraternities in higher institutions, the names will crop up again. New people started it. They've not done enough. They need to come back and reorient these boys. Disowning them or cutting off from them will not solve it, because they are still operating using the names, and you can't stop them from using your names to operate. They're using the names to operate, so they have to come back to them, tell them you've derailed, this is where you've derailed, caution them. And I think university authorities as well, they're not doing enough. We have intelligence organizations in the country that could pick up things about these people easily, but they're not doing enough. Either they're compromised or they just don't want to do it because of one perceived benefit or the other. So I think we've not been sincere to fight it. There was a time a former president started something, renunciation and all the rest, and it was more or less a ceremony, and academic authorities were giving money for these things, and they organized it, and people came out to renounce their membership. But then that was theory. When after coming out to say of renounce because they are afraid they're going to be rusticated, did they monitor them to know whether they went back to actually renounced? It was just the ceremonial aspect. The media carried it. 200 people, 100 people, they've renounced their membership, and it stopped there.
There's a long way to go.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I felt that doing a work like this is a direct way of reaching out to people. I can beat my chest and tell you, after reading the book, especially a matriculating student or a youngster in the secondary school or an undergrad that has not gone in, after reading the book and seeing how the perceived benefits are being, trashed with the violence and other things in the book, and you eventually saw yourself in any of the fraternities, I think you have nobody to blame. You can't say that you will not hold, because that's one of the excuses some of them give. Well, I got in there out of curiosity to know what is actually there, or I got in there unknowingly, I didn't know what was happening. But after reading this, no one can say that again, that I wasn't told or I wasn't warned.
Now, how can they get this book?
Well, at the moment, we're trying to do a public presentation of the book.
Like all schools should have?
Yes, hopefully, that's the plan. And we are reaching out to stakeholders in the sector to make sure that all schools, all university, higher institutions, library, even some secondary schools should have these books, so that the people can reach out to it. And
now, the cover picture, the skull, was that the only option for you?
Well, I wouldn't say that was the only option, but I felt that should sort of give the message, the central message. Me looking at it, you should know what it's talking about. The cover picture with the skull, a scary skull, and crying blood. There are so many concepts behind it. One, most of the fraternities use the skull and bone as their symbol. Secondly, looking at it the way it is, a crying skull, that's sort of a dead person crying. I used it to depict what people that have got involved and incidentally lost their life as a result of cultism, how they are feeling where they are at the moment. They must be crying, seeing that, having realized their folly. And it's sort of, I'm telling my brothers, we've seen this thing. This is where it landed us. We are crying blood. Please stop what you're doing. There is no gain in it. So that's the message I was trying to show off right from the cover page.
It's a very striking one. Please, can you read just a page?
Oh yes, we're on chapter 11. The cigarette smoke that was coming out of the room nearly pushed him back. There was a mixture of cigarette and marijuana smell, and he tried to cover his nose with his palm. Fela's authority stealing bled from the room, masking any other sound. Jerry had come with Segun to see John. Earlier in the day, Segun had informed him that John would be throwing a light party for a few special friends in his room, and that Jerry was personally invited. John was staying in the F wing of the Marire hostel, a hostel notorious for harboring most of the strong cult men in the school. Prominent among them were the pirates, buccaneers, and the black berets. The next concentration camp for system men was Salui Sujuku Hostel, dominated by members of the Blackhearts, Vikings, and Marfites. The other two remaining male hostels, Kenedike and Bonojike, housed only few members of the fraternities. L59, the number of the room, was carved onto a well-polished wooden plaque fastened to the door. Slightly pasted below the plaque was a sticker with a red background on which was inscribed the following words: "Beware of dogs."
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice, for the time.
Thank you so much for coming onto the program. I've been chatting with Obinna Anejionu. Thank you very much for coming onto the program.
You're welcome, Alice.
And that's the end of the program Creative World. We'll be together again same time next week. Meanwhile, look out for Last Order. It is a book that you must